My aunt gave the eulogy at my uncle's funeral. She didn't cry. She didn't thank anyone for coming. She just smiled at his casket and said, "You always said secrets die with the dead. I guess we'll see if that's still true." Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's all be internet friends. She wore red, not a muted burgundy, not a deep, respectable maroon. Red, bright, defiant, the color of warnings and rage, the kind you can't ignore in a sea of black suits and damp tissues. People noticed. Heads turned as Aunt Sylvia walked into the chapel, heels sharp against the polished floor, her lipstick a perfect match to her dress. She didn't smile. She didn't nod. She just walked down the aisle like she had nothing to grieve and everything to prove. I watched her from the second row, squeezed between my sister and our mother, both of whom had been whispering about seating charts and condolence baskets not 10 minutes earlier. Now, they were silent, watching Sylvia glide past pew after pew like the widow of a man who didn't deserve the weight of her mourning. Uncle Martin's casket sat up front, surrounded by lilies that already smelled too strong, too sweet, like they were trying to cover something up. Sylvia stopped beside it, tilted her head, just a little. Then she smiled, not soft, not warm, the kind of smile that comes right before someone flips the matchbook closed and walks away from the fire. "She wore red," my mother whispered, as if the words themselves were dangerous. "What is she doing?" I didn't answer, no one did. The pastor cleared his throat, his voice cracked once, then recovered. He welcomed everyone, gestured to the family, offered a few lines about grief being a bridge between love and memory. His tone was soft, generic, stitched together with platitudes that felt like they belonged to someone else's funeral. Sylvia didn't cry, didn't flinch, just sat stone still, hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes fixed ahead. When the pastor announced the eulogy, a ripple went through the crowd. Everyone turned to her. "She's not actually going to speak," someone muttered behind me, but she stood, calmly, casually, and walked to the podium like it was a stage she'd waited years to stand on. They were married 37 years, and miserable for 20. Maybe longer, it depends on who you ask. But most of us started noticing the cracks around year 17, when Uncle Martin sold his third business and started golfing more than he worked. He'd come back from those long afternoons with sunburn on his neck and cheap perfume lingering on his collar, pretending like we didn't know what that meant. Aunt Sylvia never confronted it, not in public. But the tension in their house was the kind you could cut with a butter knife. Not sharp, just ever-present. Dinner at their place was a ritual of silence. She cooked. He ate. He thanked her once, always, then disappeared into the den, where his laptop stayed open until midnight. She'd stay at the kitchen table with a book she never seemed to finish. When guests came over, they smiled in sync. He called her Syl. She called him Mart, like everything was just peachy. I used to think that was love, stability, longevity. Now I know better. At the funeral, sitting between my sister and my mother, I kept seeing flashes of those dinners. The long silences. The way she'd sweep the crumbs off the table with a flick that said more than any words. The way his voice shifted when she entered a room, like he'd rehearsed a more patient version of himself for company. "You think she'll actually say something?" my sister, Nina, whispered. "She's at the podium, isn't she?" I muttered back. My mom shushed us both, but her eyes never left Sylvia. Neither did mine. Sylvia stood at the microphone, one hand resting lightly on the edge of the lectern. She didn't unfold any paper, didn't take out a phone. Just stood there, breathing slowly, scanning the room like she was waiting for the air to still. And then she began to speak. No tears, no tremble, no thank yous or memories about first dates or inside jokes. Just one line. "You always said secrets die with the dead," she said, turning slightly toward the casket. "I guess we'll see if that's still true." Silence, not dramatic silence, stunned silence. The kind that robs a room of air. She didn't explain. Didn't smile this time. Just turned from the microphone and walked back to her seat like she hadn't just dropped a live grenade into a chapel filled with people who all knew something about Martin, but were now wondering how much they'd missed. My stomach flipped. "What does that mean?" Nina whispered. I didn't answer because I wasn't sure. But I knew the look on Aunt Sylvia's face. It wasn't rage, it wasn't grief, it was relief. as if she'd waited 37 years to say that sentence and didn't need to say anything else. The pastor cleared his throat again, tried to recover. "Thank you, Sylvia, for those words." Words. The man was sweating through his collar. Someone in the back coughed, but no one moved. No polite applause, no murmurs of appreciation. We were all too busy watching her. She didn't cry, she didn't shift. She just stared straight ahead like her part was over and everything else was noise. I leaned back in my seat and looked around. People were whispering, tilting their heads toward their neighbors. One woman looked down at her lap, clearly texting. The man in front of me, Martin's old business partner, I think, turned to his wife and murmured, "Well, that wasn't in the program." The rest of the service passed in a blur. I couldn't tell you what scriptures were read or what songs were played. I kept looking at Sylvia, wondering what she'd meant, wondering what was about to come loose, because it didn't feel like a goodbye. It felt like a warning. And when the service ended, and the pastor asked us to proceed to the reception hall for light refreshments and remembrance, Sylvia didn't move. She waited, watched everyone leave. Then, quietly, she stood up and slipped out the side door. No hugs, no condolences, no glances back. She left like a woman with nothing else to prove. Everyone thought she'd cancel the eulogy. No one said it out loud, not the day before, not that morning, but we all assumed. Because who delivers a eulogy after wearing red to a funeral? Who signs up to speak after a marriage like theirs? She did. Sylvia showed up before anyone else. The chapel was still half lit, the organist fumbling through scales, and the florists were just finishing the last round of arrangements. She walked in carrying nothing. No purse, no coat, no notes. Just herself, posture straight, chin slightly raised, that same unreadable calm painted across her face. I was already there, helping my mom set out programs. She saw me and nodded, just once. Not cold, not warm either. Like we were both guests at a wake for someone neither of us really knew. I asked if she needed anything. Water, maybe, a tissue. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "No, but thank you." It was the tone that hit me. Not brittle, not fragile, prepared. I watched her step to the front pew and sit alone. Didn't fidget. Didn't look around to see who was arriving. Just stared straight ahead like she was watching a movie only she had the script for. By the time the rest of the family arrived, you could feel it. This low, crawling buzz of discomfort moving from row to row. "Is she really doing it?" one cousin whispered behind me. "She signed up to speak. It's printed on the program," another said. "But that was weeks ago, before he actually died." I thought she'd pull out. Who wears red and then gives a eulogy? People talked like she couldn't hear them, like the chapel was soundproof as long as you whispered hard enough. But Sylvia didn't flinch, didn't give them the dignity of a glance. "She's not reading anything," my mom said from beside me. "She's just sitting there. No notes, no paper, that's reckless." I wasn't so sure. It didn't feel reckless. It felt surgical. The pastor approached her 15 minutes before the service began. Knelt beside her pew like a man approaching a lion who hadn't eaten in days. He spoke softly. I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw Sylvia's response. She shook her head once. Calm, final, he stood up and walked away a little too quickly. "Was that about the eulogy?" Nina whispered. "Probably," I said, "and she's still doing it." The music started, people filed in. The room filled with tissue shuffles and murmurs, and I watched Sylvia like I was waiting for a dam to break. When the time came, and the pastor gently invited Martin's beloved wife to share a few words, the air went razor-thin. No one clapped, no one shifted. Sylvia stood, slowly, purposefully. She took the aisle like it was a runway she'd been walking toward for years, not one glance at the crowd, no nervous hand-wringing, no side smile to acknowledge the discomfort. She climbed the steps to the podium in heels that didn't wobble once. She didn't look at the casket, not yet. She looked at us. The family, the coworkers, the church ladies who never liked her, the bridge group, the business friends. All the people who judged their marriage from the outside while pretending not to hear the yelling through the vacation house walls. Then she turned to the casket. Her voice didn't shake. "You always said secrets die with the dead," she said, cool and crisp as a bell. "I guess we'll see if that's still true." Then she stepped down. That was it, that was all. The room didn't move, not for 10 full seconds. The pastor cleared his throat. stumbled through a thank you that sounded like it hurt coming out. Thank you, Sylvia, for those heartfelt words. No one applauded, no one breathed, and that's when I knew whatever was coming next. Sylvia wasn't bluffing. She didn't read from notes. She didn't unfold a piece of paper. Didn't pull out a phone or a journal or a typed speech printed in triplicate like everyone expected her to. She just stood there at the podium, one hand resting on the wood, the other hanging at her side like it had nothing left to grip. No nerves, no clearing her throat. Just silence, so pure and sudden it made people cough just to break it. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. She wasn't stalling. She was waiting. For what, I didn't know. Maybe for the hush to settle. Maybe for the weight of Martin's life, the pretense of it to sit properly on the room's shoulders. Maybe just to be seen for once without being second-guessed. And then she spoke. You always said secrets die with the dead. Her voice was sharp, not cruel, controlled. The kind of control that only comes from decades of practice. From dinners with clenched teeth and family functions where smiling was an obligation, not an instinct. I guess we'll see if that's still true. That was it, that's all she said. She didn't cry, didn't shift. Didn't follow it with a pause or a story or a half-hearted joke to ease the tension. She turned from the microphone, stepped down, and walked back to her seat. If someone had dropped a book, the sound would have echoed like a gunshot. No one moved. The pastor blinked like he'd lost his place in the program. Thank you, Sylvia, for those heartfelt words, he managed. Heartfelt. It landed like a joke no one wanted to laugh at. I looked around, faces twisted in confusion. Eyebrows lifted. Eyes darted from person to person, waiting for anyone to react first. But no one did. Even the casket seemed to hold its breath. I watched Sylvia sit back down. She didn't meet anyone's eyes. Just folded her hands in her lap again. Same posture, same calm. But something had changed, not in her, in us. A ripple was moving through the rows. One of those invisible waves you only feel in your gut. The one that tells you something buried is about to claw its way up. My mother leaned over. What did she mean by that? I didn't answer, because I had no idea, but I knew it wasn't hollow. Sylvia didn't bluff, not like this. Behind me, a cousin whispered, "What the hell was that?" "I don't know," came the reply, but it didn't sound like grief. The pastor tried to steer the service back to normal. Read from Corinthians. Something about love being patient, kind, not envying or boasting. He tried not to trip over the irony. Sylvia didn't blink. She'd thrown a match into a room full of kindling and didn't look back to see what caught fire. I couldn't stop watching her, not because I was waiting for another outburst. Because we all knew that the outburst wasn't coming. That had been the entire storm, just one sentence. It was the aftermath we had to worry about. After the final blessing, after the awkward reception announcement, and the strained invitations to share fond memories of Martin, people rose. Some immediately turned toward her. Others avoided eye contact altogether. She didn't move. And when she finally did, just a slow turn of the head toward the casket, it wasn't in mourning. It was a challenge, like she was daring it to stay shut. The room fell completely silent, not respectful silent, not mourning silent. A silence that gripped the air like it had hands. No coughs, no rustles, no throat clearing from the back row, just a thick, static hush that settled over the pews and stayed. The pastor tried to carry on, tried to smooth things over with familiar scripture, but even his voice sounded thinner now, like it didn't have enough weight to hold the room. He kept looking over at Sylvia between verses, like he was afraid she'd stand up again and say something else, something worse, but she didn't. She sat there like she hadn't just unhinged the whole day with a single sentence. Chin up, eyes forward, her fingers didn't twitch. Her knees didn't bounce. She didn't fidget or blink or shift in her seat, still as a painting. And the casket next to her, it looked different now, not sacred, not tragic, just heavier, as if it were holding more than a body. From where I sat, I could see people shifting, not physically, but mentally. You could feel it. Guests who once whispered about how strong she was now glanced at each other with that nervous edge people get when they realize they missed something important. Something massive. Someone behind me muttered, "She didn't cry." Someone else replied, "She didn't even flinch." Nina leaned over and whispered, "Do you think she's going to tell people?" Like really tell people. I don't know, I whispered back, but I knew. The pastor eventually wrapped up, thanked the guests, invited everyone to the reception room for refreshments and memories. He gestured toward the church annex like it mattered. No one moved. The service wasn't over, not really, because no one knew what had just happened. What kind of funeral ends with a threat? The pastor nodded at the pianist. A soft hymn began to play, something slow and forgettable. It didn't help. Sylvia stood. This time, people watched her like she might throw another bomb, but she didn't say a word. She stepped out of her pew and walked straight down the center aisle. Her heels didn't echo this time. Carpet, soft, padded, muffled, no one tried to stop her. No one said thank you, no one even held the door. She walked through the chapel and into the sunlight like she hadn't just cracked open 37 years of silence in front of God and everyone. Outside, I watched from the window as she got into her car, a silver sedan, spotless, and drove away. No hesitation, just gone. Back inside, the air had changed. People whispered again, louder now. What did she mean? Was that about the will? Do you think he cheated? I heard something once, about that woman who went missing. Did you see her face? That wasn't grief, that was something else. I stood up and stretched my legs, more out of nerves than anything else. Tried to move toward the reception hall, but my feet felt heavier. Nina stayed close. You don't think she'd like air stuff, in public? She just did, I said. No, but I mean like names, details, proof. I don't know. We walked toward the coffee and sandwich trays. Plates clinked. Voices stayed low, but the mood was off. People weren't reminiscing. They were bracing. And that's when my cousin Ben said it, loud enough for everyone near the cheese platter to hear. What the hell was that? He stood by the punch bowl, still holding his program like it might suddenly explain something. He looked pale, sweaty. Seriously, he said, scanning the room. Someone tell me I wasn't the only one who heard that. No one corrected him. He turned to his sister, Dana. What did she mean, secrets? Dana shook her head, he scoffed. Whatever it is, it's probably old, who cares? He's dead. Nina whispered to me, that's exactly what Sylvia was betting on. I nodded, because that's the thing about secrets. They don't always stay buried, especially when someone's been planning the exhumation for years. She left right after the service. Didn't go to the reception. Didn't take a plate. Didn't shake hands or stand in a circle of relatives pretending to remember fonder versions of Martin than the one we actually knew. No hugs, no nods. No thank you for coming. Just that same silent walk to her car, keys already in hand, eyes forward. She didn't even pause when someone called her name from the church steps. I think it was one of Martin's old golf buddies. She got into the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled away like she was leaving a place that never truly belonged to her. Inside, the repast felt off. Not tense exactly, just hollow. People hovered near the food, poking at pasta salad and lukewarm chicken. Someone had brought a tray of cookies that nobody touched. The air was too thick for grief, too thin for comfort. I stood near the drinks table with Nina and Dana. The coffee was bitter, the lemonade watery. No one seemed to care. She really just left? Dana asked, already knowing the answer. Nina nodded. Didn't say a word, just dipped. She skipped her own husband's funeral lunch, Dana said. She made her statement, I replied. Everything after that was irrelevant. Ben wandered over, holding a napkin like it had answers. This feels cursed. Nina rolled her eyes. Oh my God, it's not cursed. She said some cryptic Bond villain line at a funeral and walked off like she detonated something. That's not normal. She didn't cry, Dana added, like she was still trying to decide if that was worse than the dress. Maybe she already cried, I said, before, years ago. She should have said something, Ben muttered. She did, I said, we just don't know what it meant yet. That was the problem, she didn't give us anything to react to. No details. No context. Just a sentence that turned Martin's legacy into a question mark and left the rest of us choking on the ellipsis. The pastor made rounds at the reception, smiling too wide, murmuring things like, what a strong woman, and so dignified in her grief. He avoided the people who looked like they wanted to ask what the hell that eulogy had been. I caught Aunt Valerie cornering him near the cookie table. Her voice was low, but I caught fragments. Inappropriate, shocking, thought this was a Christian funeral. He just nodded, patted her arm, offered more lemonade. The family kept their distance from each other. We used to cluster, cousins catching up, aunties judging dessert quality, uncles rehashing high school football wins like they mattered. But not today. Today, everyone was in small, tense circles, watching each other, waiting. The whispering wasn't quiet anymore, it was building. She meant something by that line. You think it's about the will. I heard something about Martin and that secretary back in the 90s. What if it's about the business? What if it's worse? At some point, my mother took my arm. We should go. Already. There's nothing here anymore. She wasn't wrong. The room had emptied in a strange way, not physically, but spiritually. The kind of emptiness that comes when people realize they aren't at a celebration of life. They're standing in the first chapter of something they don't understand. I caught one last glance of the guest book by the door. A third of the names were missing. People had come, seen, left, not because they had somewhere to be, because they were afraid to be next. The group chat exploded that night. Not right away. Not during dinner, not even while people were driving home from the funeral with their heels off and their jaws tight. It started slow, one message at 8:13 p.m. from Dana. What did Sylvia mean? Then silence. Then another one at 8:17 from Ben, maybe something about the will. And then, like someone cracked a window in a sealed room, the air shifted. Messages started flying. Could have been about that woman who vanished. What was her name? Y'all remember the rumor about the money Martin borrowed from Grandpa's business. I heard something way worse back in 07, but I didn't say anything because that was the unspoken thread in every message, the word behind the quiet. Because he was Martin. Because she was Sylvia. Because they'd been together forever, and that kind of longevity earns immunity in family politics. I didn't say anything, not yet, just watched the thread spiral. The tone shifted fast from curiosity to speculation, then into straight paranoia. Someone joked. Watch, maybe Martin had a secret kid or something. Someone else replied, that wouldn't be a joke if you knew what I know. No one laughed. By 9 o'clock, it was chaos. Cousins who hadn't texted in years were chiming in. Old suspicions resurfaced like bloated bodies. That time Martin screamed at a Christmas dinner. That time Sylvia had a bruise and said it was from the cupboard. That trip they canceled last minute. The donation they refused to explain. Theories collided. Accusations nested inside jokes. Then came the half questions wrapped in emojis. Eyes anyone else notice she didn't thank anyone for coming. Not one tear. I rewatched the livestream. She looked at the casket like it owed her money. I texted Nina privately, are we sure this isn't just grief? She wrote back, grief doesn't come with a warning. At 9:23, Dana added a new twist. She hasn't posted anything. No tribute, no black and white photo, not even a quote. Not even a quote, that was the modern-day equivalent of silence. No performative mourning, no curated sadness, just gone. She didn't attend the repast, didn't check in, didn't answer the phone, according to Aunt Valerie, who left her 3 polite voicemails. And the thing was, nobody knew how to interpret that. In any other family, maybe people would have let it go, called it classless, maybe, or strange, but not us. Not with Sylvia, not after that sentence, not with that look on her face. Ben posted again, what if she's got stuff, like proof? Documents, letters, I don't know. Dana replied, if she had something, she would have dropped it. She would have gone full scorched earth. A pause, then someone, an unknown number, not in our contacts, posted just 5 words. Maybe this was the warning. No one responded. The chat went dead. Not slowly, suddenly. As if the silence was a blanket dropped on the fire. It stayed that way the rest of the night. Nothing more from Sylvia, nothing more from anyone else. Just a screen full of smoke and 5 chilling words no one knew how to reply to. Then the emails started. The first one hit at 7:42 the next morning. Subject line, he told you it was a lie. It wasn't. No greeting, no signature, no explanation, just a file attachment. From Sylvia, the account was new. A Gmail address no one recognized, but we all knew it was her. Who else would use a subject line like that? Who else would choose this morning to follow up? Not even 24 hours had passed since she dropped that bombshell at the podium. I didn't open mine at first. I just stared at the notification on my lock screen, thumb hovering. I felt like I was holding a loaded weapon. Then Nina texted, "Did you get it too?" "I think so. Don't open it yet. I want to do it at the same time." We counted down like we were jumping off a cliff. 3, 2, 1, I tapped. Inside, one audio file, no message body. Just the title, June 2013 phone call WAV. That date scratched something in the back of my memory, but I couldn't quite place it. I put in my earbuds and hit play. Martin's voice, clear, brisk, caught mid-conversation. And then the sentence, "He'll never prove I signed it. That's the beauty of digital docs. Just click. No one checks the IP." Another voice, harder to place, male, nervous, but he's family. "You really think?" Martin cut him off. "He's family who owes me 6 figures. If I have to fake a loan agreement to make that money back, so be it." The rest blurred, my stomach dropped. I remembered the fallout vaguely. There'd been drama about a bad investment. Uncle Ray, a family loan gone south. Martin had insisted on legal backing, said Ray signed something and then tried to claim he hadn't. The family sided with Martin, called Ray unstable. Dishonest, he stopped showing up to Christmas after that. We thought it was shame. It was exile. I ripped the earbuds out and texted Nina. "Mine's audio, it's about Uncle Ray." Martin faked something. No response, then. "Mine's photos." "Of what?" "Of someone who wasn't supposed to be alive." I didn't ask more, not then. I couldn't. My hands were shaking. Dana messaged the group chat, the same one that had gone silent the night before. "Did anyone else get something from Sylvia?" Ben replied instantly. "Yeah, screenshots of texts between Martin and someone, I don't even know who. They were talking about blackmail." The floodgates opened. One by one, we all admitted it. Emails from Sylvia, every single one different. Some were audio, some were screenshots. Some were PDFs of old police reports, bank statements, property transfers, all dated, all tagged, all coordinated, and all pointed at one thing: Martin had secrets. Real ones, not petty infidelity or tax shortcuts. Bigger, dirtier. The kind that unspool families and businesses and reputations. The kind that, if they saw daylight, could turn mourning into mutiny. The chat got messy again. "Why is she doing this now?" "Because he's dead." "Because you can't sue the dead." "Because she couldn't say it while he was alive." "Because we didn't believe her." That last one sat there untouched. Nobody replied. Then quietly I got another text. From a number I didn't recognize, just one line. "The truth isn't cruel, the silence was." No name, no follow-up, but I knew. Sylvia wasn't bluffing, and this wasn't revenge. This was release. Mine had an audio clip. I opened the email again just to be sure I hadn't imagined the subject line. But there it was, still pinned to the top of my inbox, like it was waiting for me to stop pretending I hadn't seen it. From sylviawhitmoretruth@gmail.com. Subject: he told you it was a lie. It wasn't. Attachment: July 2013 recording zip. The date finally clicked. That was the summer Martin accused Ray of fraud. I hesitated, downloaded the file. Inside the zip folder, one audio file and a scan of what looked like a loan agreement. The file name was short and brutal: Martin's Call July 13, WAV. I clicked. It started mid-conversation. Martin's voice was unmistakable. Sharp, confident, half-bored like always. Like he was too smart to be bothered explaining himself, but too proud not to hear how good he sounded doing it. "He thinks I forged it. Let him think it. There's no proof." A pause. "You did forge it," the other voice said. I recognized it: Victor, one of his old business partners. "Only technically," Martin replied. Jesus, Martin. It was one signature, a scan. It's not like I emptied his accounts. I just needed him quiet for a while. Another pause, and Sylvia doesn't know. And even if she did, she's not stupid enough to open her mouth. That's when I stopped breathing. There was another moment of silence before Martin spoke again. "Look, people like Ray, they don't understand leverage. They don't understand loyalty. He put the family at risk and I fixed it." Then he laughed, a dry, humorless sound that made the hair on my arms rise. "You know what they say, family first, right?" I hit pause, stared at the screen. That one call, not even 2 minutes long, confirmed everything Ray had tried to say. He hadn't signed the loan. He had been scapegoated. And Martin had convinced the rest of us, with charm and logic and a well-rehearsed disappointment, that Ray was unstable. Dishonest, a liar. Ray had gone quiet after that, moved to Oregon, sent Christmas cards with no return address. He never brought it up again because we didn't listen the first time. I opened the PDF next. A scan of the original loan agreement. And below it, annotations in red, metadata, IP address logs, everything Martin had claimed didn't exist. Sylvia had been gathering for years. She had files. She had timestamps. She had receipts. I sat back in my chair. The room felt smaller. My phone buzzed. Nina again. I think I found the woman in my photos. I didn't ask how, not yet. Ben posted in the group chat again, "This is going to break the family." Someone replied, "No, it already did. Sylvia just turned the lights on." Another person left the chat, then another. By lunch, half the group had gone silent, not just quiet, vanished. Profile photos removed, names grayed out. Like people were trying to disappear before their name came up next. My mother called me. I didn't answer. Instead, I listened to the recording again, and when Martin laughed the second time, I didn't feel shocked. I felt complicit. We all were. We'd let him rewrite the truth because it was easier. And Sylvia, she had just rewritten the silence. My cousin's email had photos. Nina called me 30 seconds after opening hers. No hello. No, did you get this too? Just, Jordan, she's not dead. I was in the kitchen, halfway through pouring cereal, still dizzy from the audio file I'd listened to on repeat. My brain wasn't ready for another punch. Who? You remember Eva. I blinked. Eva was a name I hadn't heard in 15 years, maybe more. She was one of Martin's assistants in the late 90s. Quiet. Efficient. The kind of woman who didn't wear perfume or joke with the others. She disappeared one summer and nobody asked too many questions. She moved, didn't she? I said slowly. That's what he said, Nina replied, that she moved back home to deal with something. No details. I tried to picture her face. Sharp eyes, always wore navy and beige, always looked like she knew more than she let on. She didn't move, Nina said. She vanished. Sylvia sent me photos, time-stamped, locations tagged, Martin and Eva together. Not one photo, dozens, hotels, restaurants, one at a goddamn lake house. I sat down when? Between 2006 and 2009. 3 years. At least. She sent me a screenshot. I opened it. There was Martin, younger, heavier, holding a beer in one hand and resting his other on Eva's waist. She wasn't smiling. He was. They looked comfortable, familiar. Like this wasn't a fling, this was routine. Another photo followed. A cheap motel sign in the background, a blurry kiss. Eva's hand on his shoulder, her wedding ring gone. What happened to her? I asked. She left town, Nina said, but not because of work. Sylvia sent me a copy of a wire transfer. $10,000 from one of Martin's Shell LLCs, dated a week after Eva disappeared. My stomach turned. You think he paid her off? I think he paid her out. The phrase landed heavy. We both sat in the silence. She was supposed to testify, Nina added quietly. What? Against a client Martin was shielding. Some lawsuit about workplace harassment. Martin convinced the company to settle quietly. Eva was the key witness. And then gone. I pressed my fingers to my temple. How does Sylvia even have this? She kept everything. We were quiet again. I thought back to the eulogy, to that single sentence, to the way she looked at the casket, not with grief, but with warning. And suddenly it all clicked. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't catharsis. It was choreography. Sylvia hadn't just decided to spill secrets. She'd planned it. Years of files, saved receipts, documents, recordings, photos. She'd waited, calculated, chosen the exact moment the secrets would matter more than the denial. After death. When no one could sue, when no one could silence her. I opened the group chat. It was a mess. Dana, if this is true, then who else did he screw over? Ben, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm just saying I never saw it. Cousin Maya, what if it's doctored? She hated him. Then Nina. If you didn't get photos, it doesn't mean she's lying. It means she's still protecting you. Silence again. I stared at the screen. Because that was the new game now, wasn't it? Not who knew the truth, but who wasn't ready to hear it. Everyone got something different. That was the part that hit hardest. Not the secrets, those were devastating, sure, but expected in a way. No, it was the precision. The way Sylvia hadn't blasted one truth to the whole family like a grenade. She delivered it like a surgeon, one incision at a time, tailored, targeted, intentional. Cousin Dana got screenshots. Old emails between Martin and her father back when they'd co-signed a loan to save the family business. Turns out the business never needed saving, Martin just wanted control. He funneled half the money into a side investment he never disclosed. When it failed, he blamed Dana's dad, ruined his credit, strained their marriage, made him look incompetent in front of the whole family. He cried when he heard the audio that backed it up, locked himself in his study for hours. Ben got a document no one had ever seen, a sealed report from 1998, a police complaint, filed by a woman he didn't know. But the address listed was Martin's office. The signature, faint, shaky, but real. Martin had paid someone off to make it vanish. The woman later moved 3 states away, changed her last name. Ben didn't speak for 6 hours after that, not even in the chat. My mom, she got a scanned copy of a letter Sylvia wrote in 2004. Never sent, just addressed to her. It read, "You told me I was lucky to have a provider. You said comfort was worth silence. You told me not to poke the bear. I've been silent for 16 years. And he's still not kind, still not loyal, still not clean. So what exactly did I protect?" That one broke her. She didn't call, she didn't message. She just left the group without a word. My Uncle Phil, the oldest, got tax records, cross-referenced timelines, proof that Martin had been slowly buying him out of their shared company without Phil knowing. Fractional shares. Small payouts disguised as distributions. It was legal, but it wasn't honest. Phil stopped answering emails. Last I heard, he was consulting a lawyer. My cousin Elise got a video, not graphic, not violent, just disturbing. It was Martin and Sylvia in their kitchen. Someone had clearly left a phone recording in a drawer or on a counter. The angle was tilted, the lighting awful, but the sound was clear. Martin was yelling, not screaming. Not abusive in a movie villain way. Just mean, precise. Every word a little dagger designed to wound without drawing blood. You think they'd believe you over me? You're just the wife. You're the paper they file with the rings. You're convenient. Sylvia didn't speak. Say something, he snapped. Come on, you've got the mouth for it. She still didn't answer. That's what I thought. The silence in that clip was louder than anything he said. Elise posted it to the group without comment, then deleted it 5 minutes later. Someone else saved it first. Of course they did. By the next morning, everyone was rattled, paranoid. Every cousin, aunt, sibling, niece, nephew, everyone who got something thought someone else got more. Worse, that they were exposed in a way others weren't. Because Sylvia didn't explain the order, she didn't reveal the full hand. She just let each person think they had part of the map, but not all of it. And that was genius. Because it shattered us in a way that no single reveal could. We weren't just processing guilt or anger or confusion. We were processing the idea that maybe we didn't know each other at all. Not really. Not in the ways that mattered. We used to have group threads for holidays, potlucks, kids' birthdays. Now they were dead. Quiet, deleted by users. Left unanswered. Family dinners were off the table. Trust didn't just break, it evaporated. And in the middle of it all, Sylvia. Silent, absent, like a ghost who had finally finished haunting the house. By morning, half the family had blocked the other half. Not out of spite, out of fear. Nobody knew who got what. Nobody knew what had been said about them, or to them, or behind their back. And that kind of uncertainty doesn't breed conversation. It breeds silence. Ice-cold, hard-baked silence. The group chats didn't just go quiet. They disappeared. One by one, the threads I'd had open for years, birthdays, holidays, fantasy football, graduation plans, went gray. Deleted, left by user, accounts deactivated. It was like watching our family tree shed its leaves in fast forward. People weren't just avoiding conflict. They were isolating, hiding. Because in this new reality, a simple "Hey, did you get that email too?" could mean, "Do you know the truth?" Or worse, "Do you know mine? Ben texted me privately. Do you think she's sent everything yet?" I didn't know how to answer. Because the thing was, it didn't matter. What mattered was the fear that there was more. That what we'd seen was just the prologue. that any one of us could wake up tomorrow with a new message waiting, a new secret unveiled, a new family story turned inside out. Nina texted next. Elise isn't speaking to me, just unfollowed me on everything. Why? I asked. I think she thinks I got something worse than her. That was the logic now. Not who got hurt, but how much. It was like a twisted auction of pain and betrayal, everyone trying to guess who'd been bid up highest. I got a call from my Uncle Phil around noon. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail I didn't listen to, just stared at the timestamp. 4 minutes, 32 seconds, too long for an apology, too short for a confession. My mom emailed me, not texted, emailed. Like that distance might soften the words. I don't know how to make sense of this. I trusted your uncle. I thought Sylvia was bitter, but now I think maybe I was just complicit. I don't know what to say to her. Or to you. I didn't reply, not yet, because the truth was, I didn't know what to say to anyone either. The chat with my cousins, the one that had survived years of weddings and breakups and babies and hospital scares, was the last to fall apart. Elise left first, then Dana. Ben stayed longer, posted one last message. She lit the match, but he built the house from dry wood. Then he left too. I scrolled back through the thread, read every message again. Tried to chart the moment it all broke. But there wasn't one. It didn't crack. It disintegrated. Trust doesn't always shatter. Sometimes it just, let's go, no final blow, no explosive betrayal. Just one person stops replying. And then another. And another. Until you're typing into a room with no one left inside. My mother called Sylvia. I only found out because I heard her pacing in the hallway, barefoot, phone pressed so hard to her ear it looked like she was bracing for a punch. I didn't mean to listen. But the walls in her house were thin, and I was staying over, helping her sort things out, which really meant sitting in rooms while she avoided naming the thing neither of us wanted to say. That Martin had been worse than we thought. That Sylvia had been right. She tried 3 times. Once at breakfast, again after lunch, and a 3rd time after sunset, when the light in the kitchen turned golden and made everything feel gentler than it was. All 3 went to voicemail. It wasn't until the 4th attempt, sometime around 10 p.m., that Sylvia answered with silence. Hello, my mother said. Sylvia. No reply, just breath on the line. Barely audible but present. Then finally, Sylvia's voice. Low, cold. You knew what he did, and you stayed quiet. That silence ends with me. Click, that was it. No rage, no accusations. Just a sentence sharp enough to draw blood without breaking the skin. I found my mother in the kitchen 10 minutes later. Still holding the phone. Her eyes wide, but not teary. Her mouth set in that tight, downward angle she only used when the shame curled in before the guilt had a chance to speak. What did she say? I asked. She looked at me like I'd pulled her from a deep sleep. She said I knew. Did you? She didn't answer right away, just set the phone down on the counter, ran a hand through her hair. She looked older in that moment. Not like my mother, like a woman who'd realized the alibi she'd used for years had just expired. I didn't know details, she said finally, but I knew she wasn't happy. I knew he manipulated things. Like what? Money. Her schedule, her access to people. He'd make it sound like kindness. Let me handle that, Sil, or don't bother with that, I already called. But it wasn't kindness, it was control. And you said nothing. I said things, she snapped. Just not loud enough. I didn't reply, because there it was again, the sentence Sylvia had left in her voicemail. You knew, and you stayed quiet. It echoed differently when you realized how many people it applied to. How long do you think she was preparing this? I asked. My mom didn't hesitate. Years. And we never saw it. She didn't want us to, she said. Not until it was too late to stop it. There was something almost admiring in her tone. Not fondness, but respect. I opened the group chat, not the big one, just the one between me, Nina, and Dana. It was empty, just a blank screen with their names and no new messages since yesterday morning. I typed. My mom got a voicemail, then deleted it. There was nothing left to explain, no side to take. The war was over. The victors weren't celebrating, and the ruins weren't speaking. That night I sat on the porch, phone in one hand. The stars above me dull through a layer of clouds. I didn't call Sylvia, I didn't know what I'd say, but I kept replaying her words. That silence ends with me. And somehow, that felt louder than any scream I'd ever heard. The family lawyer resigned. No notice, no phone call, just an email sent at 6:12 a.m. with the subject line, effective immediately, withdrawal from representation. My mom got it first, then Uncle Phil, then the rest of us in rapid succession. It was addressed to all parties with standing interest in the Martin Whitmore estate. Inside, just 3 sentences. Due to the emergence of new information that presents a potential conflict of interest, I am formally withdrawing from my position as legal counsel for the Whitmore estate. I will provide no further advice, oversight, or involvement in matters related to this case. I strongly advise all parties to seek independent counsel. That was it. No regret, no appreciation for the years of service. Just a polite lawyer's version of "I'm not touching this mess." The family group chat, what was left of it, lit up again. Briefly. What did Sylvia send him? This means something's real, big. Does anyone know what she gave him? No one did, but we had guesses. Nina called me that afternoon. Her voice was tight, already halfway to a panic spiral. He's been our lawyer for 2 decades. He handled the trust, the land deals, the business mergers, everything. I said nothing. He knows everything, Jordan. Still, I waited. She exhaled like she was trying to wring the worry out of her lungs. What could be big enough to make him walk away? I don't think it was one thing, I said. I think it was everything, connected. By 9 a.m., another email surfaced, forwarded from Dana. It was from a partner at the lawyer's firm, short, polite, clinical. Due to recent disclosures sent directly to our office by Sylvia Whitmore, we believe continued representation would place us in a compromised ethical position. We cannot, in good conscience, proceed. Disclosures, I repeated aloud. The word sounded surgical, clean, like they were trying not to say what it really was: evidence, proof, receipts. Sylvia had sent them something or everything. Not speculation, not suspicion. Paperwork. We didn't know how many files she had left, how many names were on those documents. But if the lawyer, a man who had stood by Martin through bankruptcies, lawsuits, 2 settlements, and 1 quiet allegation, was walking away now, that meant the floorboards had finally given out. Uncle Phil tried to call him, got voicemail. Cousin Elise emailed. No reply. We were officially on our own. And for the first time, it started to hit some of them that maybe this wasn't just a scandal. It wasn't a flameout or a grudge airing. It was structural collapse. Did she send anything to the IRS? Someone texted. Or the press. I swear, if we end up in the Post, I'm changing my last name. But it was too late. Sylvia hadn't just cracked open the house. She'd salted the ground under it. And now everyone was waiting for the next storm. My aunt's old friend posted a video. It appeared on Facebook late Thursday night. The kind of post you only find if you're still awake for the wrong reasons, scrolling out of habit, not hope. The account belonged to Marion Charles, a woman I hadn't thought about in years. She and Sylvia used to be close, not the kind of close you see at birthday dinners, but the kind of close that means showing up with bleach and gloves when someone calls crying. The kind of close Martin used to roll his eyes at. The video was captioned simply, "I was asked to hold onto this. Now I'm letting it go." I clicked before I could think better of it. It opened on a grainy frame, Sylvia's old kitchen. White tile, faded floral curtains. The angle was awkward, like a phone had been propped against a toaster. The shot was a little off-center, the edge of the screen cutting through Martin's elbow. He was pacing. Sylvia sat at the table. The audio was clear. "You think they'll believe you?" Martin snapped. His tone was sharp, arrogant, familiar. "They always take my side anyway. You're just the wife." Sylvia didn't look at him. She didn't look at the camera either. She just stared at her cup of tea like it was a question she'd already answered 100 times. "You think anyone's going to care what you say? You've got 0 credibility. You're bitter. You're—" He cut off when she finally looked up. "What?" he barked. She tilted her head. Then, softly, "If I'm just the wife, why are you so scared of me speaking?" He froze. That was the moment. Not when he yelled, not when he mocked. When he didn't have an answer. He stepped back, rubbed his mouth, glanced off camera, and in that silence you could hear everything he hadn't said, everything she'd waited years to capture. The video ended. It was less than a minute long. But by the time I refreshed the page, it already had over 400 shares. I sent it to Nina. She called 30 seconds later. She recorded him. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. She recorded everything. Did you see the comments? I scrolled. There were family names in there. Familiar ones. People I hadn't spoken to since the last graduation party. That tracks. We always knew she was the smart one. He told me once he kept her on a short leash. Sylvia, if you're reading this, we see you now. Marian hadn't tagged Sylvia. Hadn't needed to. The video spoke for itself. It said what Sylvia hadn't been allowed to say while Martin was alive. That power wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was the quiet woman at the table with the camera already rolling. And now the whole town was seeing it. The video made its way to the local news. A reporter messaged Marian. Then someone posted the clip on Reddit. A thread started. Widow drops cryptic eulogy, then exposes corrupt husband, receipts inside. That was the headline. And for once, it wasn't exaggeration. Sylvia hadn't screamed. She hadn't made a scene. She'd simply outlasted him and waited for the moment when no one could shut her down. I closed the laptop and stared out the window. The wind had picked up, the house creaked, and somewhere I imagined Sylvia was watching it all unfold. Not smug, not satisfied, just free. Someone contacted a reporter, anonymously. The first article dropped 3 days after the funeral. Small local outlet, buried halfway down the front page beneath a bake sale recap and a zoning dispute update. But it was there. Real, permanent. Family secrets surface after prominent businessman's death. The subheading was worse. Allegations of forgery, coercion, and financial misconduct raised by widow's eulogy and subsequent evidence. My stomach flipped when I saw it. The article didn't name Sylvia directly, not at first, but it didn't have to. It referenced a recorded statement made during a memorial service, described the now viral video posted by her friend Marian, and detailed a series of emails that had rattled extended family members and former business associates alike. I read it 3 times. Each time, I caught a new detail. A quote from an unnamed family member said Martin used guilt like oxygen. You didn't even know it was there until you couldn't breathe anymore. Another line claimed that multiple documents provided to this publication suggest a pattern of legal and ethical manipulation across more than 2 decades. There was a photo, too. Old, from a charity gala in 2010. Martin and Sylvia standing side by side, smiling like they'd just won something. He had his arm around her waist. She wasn't touching him. The comments section was a minefield. This explains so much. I always wondered about those businesses that vanished overnight. She's brave for doing this. Most people take those secrets to the grave. Bet the rest of the family's panicking. They were. Within hours, the cousins' group chat turned into a silent void again. Not a single message, just a banner at the top. You can no longer reply to this thread. Closed, I texted Nina. Did you see it? She replied with a screenshot of the article. It's real now. It had always been real, but now it was visible. Tangible. Archived. The version of Martin we'd clung to, the pillar, the provider, the harmless blowhard, had been replaced by footnotes and allegations. Dana called me, first words out of her mouth. Do you think it was Sylvia who sent it? I don't think, I said, I know. She didn't put her name on it. She didn't have to. The story spread fast, local first, then syndicated. A couple of Redditors picked it up, spinning theories. Someone found an old Yelp review complaining about financial weirdness tied to one of Martin's shell companies. Someone else posted a fuzzy photo of him outside a courthouse in 2002. A woman from another state messaged Nina. He worked with my ex, screwed him out of a deal. Tell Sylvia she's not alone. Nina forwarded it to me. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. He wasn't just a bad husband. He was a storm dressed like a man, and Sylvia, she wasn't even wielding the thunder. She was just done pretending it hadn't rained. An uncle filed to contest the will, then dropped it. It barely made a ripple in the family thread, mostly because by then no one was talking. Not really. A few cousins still lurked in the background, liking comments, resharing the article when it hit Patch and Reddit, and then trended for a day. But the rest, gone, muted, walled off in private chats or deleted accounts. The uncle in question was Rick, Martin's youngest brother, the one who'd always felt slighted. The the one who muttered during Christmases that Martin held the leash too tight when it came to the estate. He filed the paperwork 4 days after the funeral. Quietly. No press, no family meeting, just a motion entered into probate court under a new lawyer's name. I found out from Nina. She sent the screenshot. Petition to invalidate clauses 3A and 3C of the will of Martin J. Whitmore. Translation, Rick wanted money or land, or maybe just power, the part Martin never let him near. He was never going to win, but it didn't matter. It was leverage. A message. Until the envelope arrived. He got it the day before the hearing. Hand-delivered. No return address. No postage. Just Rick in Sylvia's handwriting. He didn't tell anyone what was in it. Just showed up to court the next morning, asked for a private consult with his attorney, and 20 minutes later, officially withdrew his motion. No explanation. No statement. No refund on the legal fees. Just dropped it like a man who realized the person across the table was holding the high card and was willing to play it. Dana called him later that afternoon. He didn't answer, then he texted her, "Let it go, whatever you're thinking of doing, don't." She didn't reply, none of us did, because that was the shift. Not just that Sylvia had power now, that was already clear, but that she was selective with it. She hadn't released everything. Not yet, not publicly. She was holding on to pieces, moving them slowly, precisely, not to punish, to clarify. She wasn't out for vengeance. She was out for balance, and we were all still tilting. I sat on my front steps that night, rereading the article again. The one about Martin. The one with the gala photo and the comments section full of people who suddenly remembered how cold he'd been, how distant, how calculated. And I realized something. The worst thing Sylvia did wasn't ruin the family. It was prove that it had already been ruined. We just hadn't noticed. Or maybe we had, and chose to stay quiet. My cousin tried to organize a family call. Elise, of all people, the one who'd vanished from the chats for a week, then reappeared just long enough to say she was processing. The one who got the video. The one who deleted it 5 minutes after posting it, then never explained why. She sent the message on a Tuesday morning. "I think we need to talk, all of us. No judgment, just honesty, please." The text didn't go to a group. It went out individually. One by one, personalized. I know because she called me the night before. "I'm not trying to patch it up," she said. "I just want us to face it. Together." "You really think anyone's going to show up?" "I think some might. 2 did, me and Dana, that was it." The Zoom call opened to the sound of silence, just a static screen and our 3 faces. Dana with her camera off. Elise sitting stiffly in front of a bookshelf, holding a mug she never drank from. Me in my bedroom, still unsure why I'd even joined. "I reached out to everyone," Elise said. 23 messages, 2 calls. 1 email. "No one else responded?" Dana asked. "Uncle Phil blocked me. Ben said it wasn't safe to talk unless we were all on the same page." Whatever that means. "It means he thinks someone's still holding a knife," I said. Elise sighed. "Do you think they're waiting for Sylvia to drop more?" "They're not waiting," Dana said. "They're hiding." I muted myself for a moment, just listened. There used to be noise in this family. Constant, overlapping noise. Birthdays. Weddings, arguments about potato salad. Chaos with a current of affection running under it. Now it was 3 voices trying to fill the absence left by people who'd chosen silence. "Did she reach out to you?" Elise asked us. "No," I said. Dana shook her head. "I thought maybe if we were the ones to start," Elise trailed off. She didn't finish the sentence. "Didn't need to, because we weren't the ones who needed to speak. We were the ones left behind when everyone else refused to listen." "I keep thinking about what she said," Dana murmured. "You always said secrets die with the dead." Like it wasn't a threat, just a reminder. "It was a warning," I said. To him, to all of us. The call lasted 43 minutes. No one cried, no one yelled, we didn't agree on everything, we didn't solve anything. But for those 43 minutes, we acknowledged it. The damage, the silence. The fracture that didn't start with Sylvia, but ended with her refusal to carry it any longer. When the call ended, Elise stayed on for a second longer. Looked like she might say something else. Then didn't. The screen went black. And I sat in that quiet for a long time. Long enough to know we weren't just a family in pieces. We were pieces that no longer fit. I finally called her. It was late. Not late enough to be inconsiderate, but late enough that she'd know I meant it. That it wasn't just curiosity or guilt or some performative check-in. I called because I couldn't stop replaying the silence she'd left behind, and because I needed to hear her voice say something that hadn't already been weaponized. She answered on the third ring, not rushed, not guarded, just, "Hello, Jordan." "Hi." Pause. "You're the first to call and not ask what I'm holding." I swallowed. "I'm not here for the files." "Good," she said, "because I'm not holding them anymore." I sat down at my desk, pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "You sent everything." "No," she said, "but I've sent enough." "Then why all of it? Why now?" She exhaled, not tired, measured. "Because no one believed me while he was alive," she said. "I wasn't going to die carrying what he buried." The sentence didn't just land, it opened something. He made sure of that, that no one would believe me. He curated me, the bitter wife, the cold smile. The silence. "You weren't silent," I said, "you." "I was, for decades. I let people pat my hand at dinner parties while he joked about keeping me in check." I laughed when I wanted to scream. I slept next to a man who erased me in increments so subtle. I didn't even notice until I couldn't recognize my own voice anymore. She didn't raise her voice, didn't waver. He told me once, years ago, that secrets only hurt when they're shared, and that most women couldn't survive the truth. I stayed quiet, she continued. So I kept them because I thought that was what survival looked like. Keeping the peace, protecting the kids, avoiding shame. And then I realized shame wasn't mine. It never was. I blinked, not because I didn't believe her, because I did, every word. "Do you regret it?" I asked. The eulogy, the emails, the video, all of it. She was quiet for a moment. I imagined her at her kitchen table, that same cup of tea from the video, the curtains drawn halfway, night pressing against the glass. "No," she said. "I regret waiting so long. I regret letting him write the story while I proofread it." We didn't speak after that, not right away. The silence wasn't heavy, it was earned. Eventually, she added, "Some people think I burned the family down." "Did you?" I asked. "No," she said. I turned on the lights. I closed my eyes. There was nothing else to say. She didn't ask me to pick a side. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't need either. She'd told the truth. And for once, someone had listened. The family will never recover. That much is certain. Not just because of what Sylvia revealed, but because of what we let rot for years before she spoke. Her words didn't burn the foundation, they only showed us it was already cracked. The group chats are still dead. Holidays pass in fragments now, 2 cousins here, an aunt there, each gathering smaller, quieter. Nobody mentions Martin, not directly. If they do, it's with a tone that says don't ask, don't push. Like we all agreed, without saying so, that the name itself carries too much weight. My mother still hasn't spoken to Sylvia. She tried once. Sent a card with flowers, no return address. Just 3 lines I didn't know. "I'm sorry I didn't ask more." Sylvia didn't reply. I don't think she needed to. Some truths aren't meant to reopen relationships. They're meant to close chapters. It's been months since the funeral, since the first email, since the first wave of secrets knocked the wind out of us. And still, I think about it all the time. About the look Sylvia gave that casket, about how silence can bend a person until they don't recognize their own voice, about how power isn't always volume, sometimes it's precision. I opened her email again last night, the original one, the one with the subject line, "He told you it was a lie." It wasn't. The attachment was gone. I deleted it after I sent it to Ray, but the body of the message stayed burned into the screen. All 2 sentences. "I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm asking you to know what was real. Do what you want with it. But don't pretend you didn't see it." Below that, a single line, "The truth isn't cruel." The silence was, I read it 3 times, let it settle, and I realized something. We'd spent years calling Martin a complicated man, a flawed man. A provider, a force, a presence, but never once had we called him what he was, a coward, because it takes courage to face the truth out loud. Sylvia did that, alone, and she did it with nothing but a voice we taught her to silence. The family may never recover, but I'm not sure it should. Some things shouldn't be repaired. Some things should stay broken so we never forget what broke them, and some truths, They don't need to be shouted. They just need to be heard. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.